Well, states hoping that bankruptcy could potentially free them from their financial obligations better listen up. It does not look like Uncle Sam will be giving you a lending hand anytime soon. That's the message, at least, from the House Majority Leader Eric Cantor today. Cantor saying outright, quote, there will be no bailout of the states. And he adamantly opposes a proposal for Congress to change the law so that states can file the equivalent of bankruptcy. Republican Congressman Jeff Flake of Arizona sits on the House Appropriations Committee, and he's my guest now. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. There's been more and more talk of this, including from Republicans like Newt Gingrich, who seem to think that this would give the states a good tool in their arsenal in dealing with pensions that are out of control, unions that they say are out of control, saying if you don't bend, we're just going to go declare bankruptcy. And now Eric Cantor says, no, we're not going to change the law so you can do that. And what's your thought on it?
Well, I think the hammer of bankruptcy, or the prospect of it out there, should be enough to get state legislatures to act. You don't want to declare bankruptcy. You don't want to hand over decisions from the state legislatures to a judge, basically, and that's what you do under bankruptcy. So I don't think that's a good option, but there are things the federal government can and should do.
Well, like what? Because Cantor seems to be saying, don't be looking to the feds for a bailout. There's not going to be any more bailouts. You got a bunch of money in the stimulus plan. That's all you're getting. Now go fix your own financial situations while we try to fix the federal government's situation up here in Washington.
Let me explain. I'm not talking about a bailout. That's the last thing the federal government should do. We shouldn't do a bailout. We've done plenty of those for the states in the past, and it just leads to bad behavior. What we should do is, for states that are seeking waivers to comply with federal requirements, like Arizona, Arizona's governor just asked the federal government to relieve Arizona of the requirement to continue to keep a certain number of individuals on the Medicaid payrolls. And when we do that, I'm sorry, not on the payrolls, but eligibility, many states are like Arizona here. They're having problems with the so-called maintenance of effort requirements, meaning they have to keep a certain number of individuals on the on the Medicaid rolls, which is costing states a fortune. I think Arizona is somewhere near $1 billion, and states simply can't afford that and should get waivers from the federal government.
So, but could they go any further? Because the argument on the other side is the states are hemorrhaging money, and we're going to face a situation like we faced in California before they got a bunch of money from the stimulus that was passed last year, where literally, people aren't going to be able to get services. They're not going to be police. All the public parks are going to close down. They're not going to be able to get health services. They seem to be turning more and more to the federal government and saying, look, we know, we should have tightened our belts, but we're in an emergency situation now. And there seemed to be some appetite for that message, at least last year in Congress.
Well, Megan, if they haven't noticed, we're broke. We just got the figures today that we'll run a deficit of $1.5 trillion on top of a debt of $14 trillion. Where we're supposed to come up with the money to bail out the states, I don't know. I mean, we're going to approach the status of Greece and Ireland pretty soon, unless we take action here.
Too big to fail.
Start bailing
That's
out
what
states,
we keep
we
hearing.
Just hit there
Too
faster.
big to fail. Can't you say that about a state? If you can say it about GM?
No, we shouldn't have said it about GM, and we shouldn't say it about the states.
What's the alternative? I mean, what are we going to let these states essentially not actually go bankrupt, but run out of money to the point where kids don't get health care coverage and all the awful consequences that the states are telling us are going to happen if they don't get either some sort of help or some sort of leverage?
Hey, the awful consequences are if the federal government fails to get a hold of its own fiscal situation, and we come to a point where we have a treasury auction and have no takers, and we're going to get to that point at some point. With the states, it's incumbent on the states to through their state legislatures, through their own processes, get a hold of these runaway pensions or whatever is causing this. And it's up to the federal government to, where the states need waivers to comply with federal requirements and unfunded mandates, we should grant them those waivers. So that's our responsibility here, but it's not our responsibility to bail them out with money.
Congressman, can I ask you before you go, and I just wonder if you have any reaction to the breaking news we had right before you came on, that Loretta Sanchez had suggested that Gabrielle Giffords be removed from the House Armed Services Committee until she recovers. You're an Arizona guy. Yeah, that apparently has been scrapped because there wasn't much appetite for it. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, I don't know the situation or what went on there, but I can just say that there is no move on the Republican side of the aisle, certainly. We are all praying for her speedy recovery, and we hope she's back with us soon.
Jeff Flake, thanks so much for being here.